Video games have come a long way from being entirely focused on challenge. Back in the glory days of the arcades, a title's difficulty was pretty much essential in getting as many quarters out of a player as possible, inspiring that one more go mentality that not only made for fun victories, but, most importantly, inspired people to part with their hard-earned cash money. Since moving away from that mentality and into the realm of more cinematic experiences though, games have progressively gotten easier, with there being very few negative consequences to dying in a modern game. However, perhaps because games are easier than they've ever been, developers have much less patience for you being bad at them. Whether you're dying too often, needing to look for hints to help you progress, or simply choosing the easiest difficulty, these developers all had creative ways of making you feel bad for totally sucking. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 ways video games humiliated you for being bad at them. Number 9. Serious Sam 2's Tourist Mode makes you a baby. Serious Sam 2's Tourist Mode is easier than easy, designed to remove as much challenge as possible from the game, bar straight up removing the enemies and letting you run to the end of each level with your hands down your pants. It'll make you hit harder, extend your health, and allow it to regenerate and reduce the enemy types on screen. And the only real drawback is that it doesn't allow you to rocket jump. While that sounds like a pretty cushy exchange and not all that humiliating, upon choosing this mode you're treated to an image of Serious Sam himself looking far from intimidating. That's because this difficulty puts him in a pink bonnet as well as a pacifier to shut him up, like the big baby both Sam and you actually are. After that, you have to play the rest of the game knowing that some of the enemy types probably didn't show up because you're nothing more to them than a big old joke. Number 8. Time Splitters 2's Monkey Assistant Mode. Okay, so this one technically is a regular game mode for Time Splitters multiplayer suite, but that only makes the humiliation even more piercing. The Monkey Assistant game type functions almost identically to the regular deathmatch mode, but features one key alteration. Time Splitters always had a wicked sense of humour, so here, when fighting either against bots or real humans, the person at the bottom of the leaderboard, just like the title of the mode suggests, would be given a team of weapon-wielding monkeys to help them out and fight back. They were useful enough, and it's kind of like getting a rocket in Mario Kart to get yourself back into the game, but the help was never, ever welcomed. If you didn't have what it took to win, the humiliation of needing the game to give you an army of monkeys just so you could climb up from the bottom was almost worse than coming dead last. Number 7. Earthworm Jim's Fake Practice Mode Ending. Right, there's no getting around this, Earthworm Jim was a bona fide badass. Even though it was always a bit confusing that the developers and artists kinda tried to make a worm sexy, giving him chiseled abs and the player 2 tickets to the gun show, the series' brand of humour was just as good as its side-scrolling platforming. Like all games of its ilk from that era though, the original release was pretty darn challenging. Consequently, if you didn't want to dive straight in and test your mettle, you could try your luck in the practice mode and play through the game that way, getting to know the basics. And now, a tutorial mode isn't exactly shameful, but the developers had harsh words for players who completed the game this way, all presented over a still image of a couple of cows riding surfboards with sunglasses on. Just a regular day at the beach, I suppose. The ending narration immediately says, "What a worm! Playing on practice, eh? Well, you better step up the difficulty if you want to see the real ending." Adding insult to injury, this so-called ending goes on for another 4 minutes. It's mad, and I kinda love it, but still, yeah, I've been told. Number 6. Demolition Man tells you, you suck. It's fair to say that Sylvester Stallone is a pretty intimidating dude. One of Hollywood's veteran action stars, even at the ripe old age of 73, the actor continues to stay in better shape than most of us will ever even dream of being in. Hell, there's even a new Rambo movie about to come out at the end of this year. Consequently, it would be pretty terrifying if Stallone, say, got right up in your face and told you flat out that you suck. Well, for some players back in the 90s, this was their reality. At the time, Sly was starring in Demolition Man alongside Wesley Snipes, and the blockbuster received its own video game tie-in, so you too could pretend to be just as cool as these Hollywood heroes. However, if you weren't up to the challenge and decided to play it on easy, you'd be greeted with a close-up of Stallone looking directly down the camera at you, who tells you squarely and without remorse that you suck. Number 5. BRAID criticises you for looking up walkthroughs. Now, this is a unique entry in that it actually happens outside of the game itself, and you have to bring your newfound shame back to the title the next time you boot it up. Apart from being one of the most inventive indie games ever, with a fascinatingly ambiguous story, BRAID is also a challenging puzzle platformer first and foremost. Consequently, there's a good chance that you'll get stuck at some point, and of course, because we live in a society where nobody has an attention span anymore, you might be inclined to check out a walkthrough, and what better one to start with than the guide featured on the official BRAID site. If you head there, you'll be treated to a detailed step-by-step walkthrough of the first level. But when you click onto the next page, you'll encounter an interesting message. That's because the guide ends after the first mission, and the next page is a plea from the developers to players to avoid guides and figure out the puzzles for themselves, regardless of whether it takes them hours to do so. Number 4. GTA Online labels you a bad sport and gives you a dunce hat. At one point or another, everyone who's played GTA Online has been a little bit naughty. The game just makes it so easy to take the utter piss out of other players and your friends alike. However, there is a key difference between successful griefing and being a major tittyhead who's bad at the game. For instance, it's not funny to quit a job early because it's not going your way, as it punishes the other people in your party who would have stuck it out to the very end. Likewise, blowing up other people's cars benefits absolutely nobody. The perpetrator has to pay for a replacement, and the victim has to wait around for it to be delivered. Thankfully, Rockstar did implement a system that punishes players who don't play properly, labeling them bad sports and hitting them with a bunch of limitations. However, just to rub it in and humiliate them in front of their fellow players, the devs also forced these bad sports to wear a dunce hat for a certain amount of time, letting everyone know that they're not to be trusted. Number 3. Metal Gear Solid Psycho Mantis evaluates your skills as a warrior. Metal Gear Solid is no stranger to fourth wall breaks and in-game features that, more often than not, are designed to make the player feel a little bit silly. Whether it's the chicken hat in MGS5 or the bodies of your slain foes literally haunting you in MGS3, the games have always found a way to remind you of your failures, but none perhaps did it in a more biting way than the original MGS. In the seminal stealth title's most memorable boss fight against Psycho Mantis, the BDSM-loving mind reader of Foxhound freaks both Snake and the player out by recalling their past and reading their memory card. While him reeling off your save files is perhaps the most infamous bit of fourth wall trickery, he also accurately assesses your progress through the game so far, and how well you've been doing. If you've saved too many times, he'll call you out for being too cautious. If you've hit too many alerts and died too many times, he'll call you a careless man and a poor warrior. It's like being given a report card by a teacher, only you can kick his ass as soon as the lecture's over. Number 2. 50 Cent Blood on the Sand has a damning achievement for dying. While a lot of games, even a few of them on this list, have harsh words for you if you choose to play them on the lowest difficulty, 50 Cent Blood on the Sand is a little more forgiving. This forgotten shooter doesn't really mind if you want to take it easy, crank the difficulty down, and have a blast while you're doing it. Well, as long as you don't die anyway. If you do get gunned down while playing on Blood on the Sand's easiest setting, you'll pop a secret achievement titled Not Bulletproof. That's already adding insult to injury to being killed on this easy difficulty, but the real kicker is you don't even get any gamerscore to ease the pain of your humiliation. Instead, it pops with a sobering 0 gamerscore, forever to remain on your gamertag as a mark of shame. Number 1. Dark Souls 3's Simple Gem lets you know what it thinks of you. I mentioned in the introduction that a lot of modern games don't put all that much stock in difficulty and challenge, but the Dark Souls series has always prided itself on the tough but fair test of might it poses to players. Without a difficulty mode or any real way to cheese the game to victory, each installment in the series forces you to learn the mechanics, nail the attack patterns of each enemy, and unlock the skills you need to progress. However, even though it doesn't have conventional difficulty modes, it still has certain items that help players out. And it is true that some of the builds are easier than others. In the case of Dark Souls 3 though, one of these items, the Simple Gem, acknowledges that it's often used by players so they can play more cautiously and defensively, using it to upgrade their weapons in a way that allows them to regenerate focus points. Reading the item's description might put you off adopting this tactic though, as it reads, quote, "A gem of infused titanite said to be an object of infatuation for victims of stunted development. Used in infusion to create simple weapons inflict magic damage and restore FP very gradually to help even a simpleton muster some metal." End quote. So there you have it, it's an item that makes even us simpletons feel very strong. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are there any cool picks that I missed off here? And while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't, though, I've been Josh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.